Thanks very much. So, Bath and West Community Energies. We like to think that community energy as an approach offers a significant different way of doing business. Our approach is around developing and supplying clean local energy, but with a very strong community model. So the organisation itself is member-led. We raise capital through our members, and then we build out the projects. Using that capital, we then recycle surplus back into the community to support further community action on carbon reduction or fuel poverty to meet community needs. That community model now is something that's been demonstrated not just in our organisation, but across the country, around 300 odd community organisations, community energy organisations. So we're part of a significant movement that's looking to challenge the traditional approach to energy through key questions, key kind of issues around who owns, who controls, and who benefits from the energy system that we all depend on. So Bath and West was established in 2010, like many community organisations. Started off meeting in the top room of a pub. In our case, the Ram in Wickham. A number of community organisations, Transition Bath, Transition Caution, and others, got together to think about how could we ensure that renewable energy developed in our area benefited local communities and was within the control and accountable to local communities. So at that time, we set up BWCE, Bath and West Community Energy, to deliver clean local energy, community owned for the common good. And the type of legal form was critical to this because we wanted something that provided checks and balances, that provided security for investors, that assets would always be used for community benefit. And so the Community Benefit Society is a form of mutual, a bit like the old building societies used to be, structured in a cooperative way, one member, one vote, regardless of shareholding. But importantly, the organisation has a statutory asset lock within it, which means that we can't be asset strict for commercial gain, if you like. If we sell assets, they have to be for market value or above market value and generate significant community benefit. The organisation itself is not for profit. We pay interest on our shares and bonds, but we don't distribute profits. So if we have a particularly good year, the additional revenue or value has to be used for community benefit. More of that a bit later. We started off as a voluntary organisation for the first 2 or 3 years, but over the time we've grown to what we feel now is financially sound, successful community business. We have staff team of over 20. We've got assets of nearly 17 million, and we have turnover of over 3 million. So strong community business now at a point where we're looking to expand even further and increase the impact that we have in the local area. And we consider our area of interest as being the whole of Bath and North East Somerset, but also West Wiltshire, the Caution, Bradford Avon, Trowbridge, part of West Wilts, and also the part of South Gloss closest to Bath, sort of Wick, Doynton, Marshfield area. This is the area that we wanted to focus on. It's an area that's big enough to enable us to generate enough projects that can build revenue, as I outlined, that enables us to actually employ people, move from being voluntary to employing staff, and therefore being able to create sustainable business that has a body of experience and expertise that can actually be used for and on behalf of the local communities. So our vision is to create an energy system where local consumers get power from local projects, clean local energy, local power for local people. But more than that, the energy projects are owned and shaped by the communities. We want people to start to feel they're part of the solution through their support of community energy, rather than always being felt and being told part of the problem around climate action. So we think that by working together, the collective action of working alongside friends, neighbours, family and the like helps drive change and demonstrates more collective action than we can do as individuals. The one kind of more techie bit of this is that our energy system is rapidly changing from large-scale power stations down to distributed renewable energy. And that raises a real issue about how we match supply and demand. And we feel that the more people are connected to their local generating plant, and we can do that far more effectively and increase the amount of our electricity that comes from variable renewable energy sources, obviously alongside battery storage. So our achievements so far, we've raised over 20 million from community finance and ethical debt, primarily from Triodos, the ethical bank from Bristol. We've built enough renewables to match the annual demand from around 5,000 typical homes, the equivalent annual demand from 5,000 typical homes. So it's substantive, if not substantial. It's certainly enough to demonstrate that the model works and gives us a platform, as I say, to grow significantly over the coming years. We've developed 5 ground mount schemes, solar panels in fields, with strong focus on biodiversity, which is some of which projects we've had operating now for 9-10 years, and we're really starting to see the benefit of that. We've also got 30 rooftop solar schemes, primarily on schools, but not totally, and 1 water wheel at Old Mill Hotel, Bathampton Weir. But we've got a significant pipeline, and hence the need to raise more capital, both solar on schools and other community buildings. And we're also starting to develop wind turbines as well. So this point about innovation as well as renewable energy, for the last 5 years, we've started to recognise the critical role that how we use electricity will play in the expansion of renewables. Currently, the bulk of electricity is used in peaks at the beginning of the day and at the end of the day. A lot of the solar, all the solar and a lot of the renewables generates in the middle of the day. And that mismatch will create bigger and bigger problems the more renewable electricity that we have on the system. When I started working in this sector kind of in the 80s, the CEGB, as was then, said, oh, we wouldn't be able to get more than 20% renewables on the system. We've obviously demonstrated more than that. As a country, as the UK, we've got over 40% of our electricity coming from renewable energy, but we need to increase that up to 80% plus, depending on the role of nuclear. So we need to also, alongside this, work with households and consumers to balance this supply and demand. And we've been running several pilots, innovation pilots, around how best to work with consumers around this, and also looking at local supply. Our goal is to be able to sell electricity directly from local generating plant to consumers. If we can do that, we will be able to sell electricity at a lower price, because we will be able to avoid some of the network charges that otherwise you would have to pay when you generate electricity. This is something that we're also doing some innovation projects on, and we're working with the industry to help create the regulatory framework within which this can become more mainstream. This is we believe, the kind of final goal, if you like, of community energy, really being able to provide local power to local people at a reduced rate. But beyond that, we've also been thinking, well, how can we create a more holistic community offer that looks at both supply and demand? So as well as this demand side response, local supply, we've recently launched a home energy service, providing home energy assessments to householders, and also retrofit coordination. So households that want somebody to manage the process of retrofits within their home, it's a service that we can now provide. We ran a very successful open homes program last year, which we're doing again this year, enabling households that have already retrofitted and updated their homes to open those homes and invite people who are interested in what they've done and how they've done it to come and have a look around and talk to people who've actually done it. It's been a very successful and inspiring approach that's helped a lot of people come onto the journey around retrofit. Ultimately, though, what we're trying to do is generate, as well as clean local energy, we're wanting to build participation and consent for projects by maximising the amount of community benefit that we can provide alongside our projects. To date, we've distributed going on for £400,000 in grants to support community action, as I say, on carbon reduction and fuel poverty through our independent community fund. And we're looking to expand that significantly in coming years. Many times more than the paltry sums that commercial developers tend to put aside for community funds. But more than that, community benefit comes through the active involvement of local people in the organisation, through governance, through participation on our board. The majority of our members are elected, board members are elected by the wider membership. So there's a real strong link between the community, our membership, and the way the organisation operates. And it's a model that's demonstrated both success and recognition. We've had many awards over the years, but last year we had a couple of awards that we were particularly pleased with from Bath Life, both for the best sustainable business, but also the overarching award we won last year as well. But also, so that's nice to have a recognition from the local communities, if you like. But also, we've had recognition from at a European level. The European Association for Renewable Energy gave us the award for the best local and regional organisation, renewable energy organisation in Europe, which was rather nice. So having both that balance of local recognition, but also recognition that this model can offer real value to the wider energy sector is important. So I'll stop there and just pause if anybody's got any questions about the organisation. Is there anything in the chat?
There's nothing in the chat. Thank you for everybody's been introducing themselves, some really interesting participants, so that's good. But I had no specific questions, and obviously we're recording, so people might want to say. But if you people drop them any questions in the chat, maybe taking time to process what you're saying, Pete.
Yeah, and I mean, it'd be interesting to know how many people have heard of BWC before coming along to this. Maybe could you kind of stick a thumbs up or a hand in the air kind of electronically if you've come across BWC before? Just, it's interesting to get a sense as to whether, so that sounds like, looks like nobody, a couple of people. Oh, thank you. But a number of you haven't, that's good. Please do flag up any questions. At this point, we can only bump along the surface of us as an organisation. Decided not to go into a lot of detail about our finances, but we can provide more information about that if people are particularly interested. Okay, so I've kind of blurbed on long enough to give people a chance to raise any questions if they want to, but nothing there, so I'll carry on. Share offer. So we've been through two phases of our development. One with the feed-in tariff, which was the government's subsidy for renewable energy schemes that started in 2010, pretty much the same time that we launched, in fact, and then finally came to a close in 2019. But in the last few years, the feed-in tariff tailed away to pretty much zero. But during that first phase of project of operation, we established a whole range of rooftop solar schemes across Bath and surrounding area, West Wiltshire. We also developed some of the larger ground-mounted schemes in 2016, and the hydro scheme also was end of 2016, 2017. We then had a big lull because in terms of new renewables development, without the feed-in tariff, at that point in time, it wasn't financially viable to develop new projects. We believe the government ran the feed-in tariff down a bit too quickly before the market was ready. But we started then looking at systems again in 2021. Panel prices had come down to the point where we could do installations without subsidy, which was great. So since 21, we've built out a whole range of new projects. Again, primarily on schools was said, but not solely. And been very successful, demonstrated significant value to the schools. So we install the project at no cost to the building owner. We raise the capital, as I say, from share offers and bond offers. We then sell the electricity to the building owner at a significant discount. That is what then generates the income for us to be able to service the shares and also run the projects, maintain, operate the projects, and also surplus that, as I say, goes back into the community. So we install the system for free, no upfront cost. We manage the system, so no hassle for the owner. We insure it, we maintain it. We have O&M contractors go around every year, at least once, usually twice in the schools a year to check up on the system. The scale of the project obviously depended on roof size and orientation, but also how much energy the building uses. So we tend not to put solar on large warehouses. Great roofs potentially, but if it doesn't have the building doesn't have any energy use, electricity use, then we can't generate much at the moment. We can't generate much income to cover the costs of servicing the capital. So that's the model. We raise the capital, build out the projects, and then recycle the surplus. This is what we're looking to build out over the next 12 to 24 months. Dragonfly Leisure Centre. It's the second Dragonfly Leisure Centre that we're doing. The first one was in Radstock, and this next one is nearby, near Rithington School, and then IKB Academy and Wellsway School in Keynsham. We're looking to build those out in summer, August, September time. But on top of that, we're talking to a range of other schools, SMEs, and also public sector and HE institutions to build out more projects. And we have some other sites, in fact, that aren't yet, that are just twinkle in our eyes as interest, but haven't yet got very far on the development. So as is the way with pipelines, some of these projects may fall through and they'll be replaced by the others. But the first three we're pretty confident in delivering. So we've got about 14.5 megawatts now. So over the next 24 months, there's the potential of over doubling our capacity. We're just in the process of, we're just starting the business planning process for our next period up until 2030. Our current business plan finishes March next year. And over that period, we'll be looking to triple at least the capacity. Obviously, the 15.4 megawatts outlined there is very dependent on one large field solar array. So there's 3 sites there mentioned, but one of them is a 10 megawatt site that's south of Chippenham, that we're doing in partnership with a commercial developer. They're developing a 50 megawatt scheme. We're taking 10 megawatts of that larger scheme into community ownership. So if we were to, and this is just to just to give a sense of the funds involved, if we were to build all of those out, we're talking about between 11 and 12 million pounds we need to raise. We will raise a significant chunk of that, 7 to 8 million from Triodos, project finance, senior debt, which leaves us around 4 million over the next few years that we need to raise from shares and bonds. We will be launching a bond offer later on this year, but we're keen to increase our membership as well and raise capital through increasing shareholding too. So the first thing to say is that if people are at all interested in the ethical investment opportunity that this represents, then please do look at our offer document that's on our website. The bottom line is the capital is unsecured and therefore at risk, but it relates more directly to a set of key risks that are outlined in the offer document in more detail, but I'll go through in summary now. Clearly, our ability to continue to pay interest depends on our future profitability, which in turn is dependent on our ability to secure long-term power purchase agreements. One of the benefits of the rooftop solar schemes is that we set up a 25-year power purchase agreement with the building owner to buy the electricity at the discount rate that we agree. That gives us a lot of confidence around future income for the rooftop schemes. We're trying to replicate that with the larger ground mount schemes. It's a little bit more challenging, but there are opportunities for that sort of approach as well. And whilst track record is no guarantee of future performance, as it's important to stress, our track record is pretty good in terms of paying out interest to the target rate. We've had 2 years since 2011 when the interest rates we had to pay were less than the target because of very low sunshine levels, in average sunshine levels in 2016 to 2018. We had a period of significantly below average solar. So yeah, clearly our ability to pay interest is based on our profitability, our ability to secure long-term income, and also ultimately sunshine levels as well. Come back to that. Counterparty risks. So we have had the situation where we've had some bad debt from building owners. We are now focusing on what might be termed lower vulnerability sectors. So hospitality, for example, has taken a big hit since COVID. So hence the focus on SMEs and particularly schools, public sector, where there isn't quite the same level of risk around ongoing operation of the organisation. But on the other hand, we've seen what happens when businesses do close. The buildings then get taken over by others. And we've been through that process before and come out the other side. So we're fairly comfortable with the counterparty risk. Project performance, I mentioned ultimately the thing we can't do anything about is sunshine levels. But we do set our financial modelling based around conservative yield assessments. We take what our solar installer tells us and then take 5% at least, sometimes 10% off the yield assessment just to play safe. We have clear O&M agreements with contractors that look after the performance and the operations, and of course we insure our projects as well. So generally speaking, we always have 1 or 2 problems every now and again with performance, technical issues, but we're able to deal with them pretty promptly. And generally, where we've had any issue with performance, it's been, as I say, about sunshine levels, which we can't do anything about. Capital repayment, clearly everybody who invests will want their money back. So we carry out long-term financial planning, make sure that our projects are capable of repaying capital within their lifetime. And we manage our projects with that very much in mind. Community shares are withdrawable, not transferable, which means that you can request withdrawal, but withdrawal is subject to approval by the board. Because we use your capital to build projects, it's not a liquid investment, if you like. It's not like a bank. So we have a share withdrawal policy, which states that members can request their share withdrawal at any time in the year, but the requests will be considered once a year at the August board meeting. And we always try and meet shareholders' requests. We've met all share withdrawal requests in line with our share withdrawal policy to date. But it's important to just bear in mind that this isn't a liquid investment. Therefore, it's not, any investment shouldn't be money that you're likely to use to want it in the next, in the short term. Cost overruns. It's always an issue when you build anything. We, however, set fixed price contracts with our installers to minimise the potential for that. We budget for unscheduled maintenance, and we also have a maintenance reserve account, which effectively a sinking fund. So we're stowing money away for a rainy day in case projects have problems. In that way, we minimise the potential impact of significant technical or mechanical failures, electrical failures on any of our projects. So those are the risks that we see, the primary risks. Obviously, if anybody has any questions, do flag that up. I think one of the things that we wanted to emphasise, though, is that not everybody can put solar on their own roofs, and community investment in community energy offers the opportunity for people who can, but also particularly who can't put solar on their own property or already have put solar on their own property, to actually become part of the energy transition themselves. And by doing so, you can actually generate more value through community solar. So as an example, a community solar system might cost around £950 a kilowatt to install, whereas a domestic system might be almost double that. In terms of benefit, every £100 invested in BWC could generate around £18.50 of financial benefit, whereas invested same amount of money in a domestic solar system generate around £16 of financial benefit. However, the balance of those benefits is different. Clearly, if you invest money in your own domestic system, all of the benefit goes to you. If you invest your money in the community system, you get, of that £18.50, you get £5 of interest from £100 invested. But you have the knowledge that you're also generating significant value to the school, £10 per year set fuel bill saving for every £100 and £3 to the community fund. So it offers a significant contribution to community well-being, but also because of the differential in cost to install, you're generating nearly 85% more carbon reduction using the same, if the same amount of money was invested in community than if it was invested in the domestic solar schemes. So it generates significant value, both environmentally and financially, in terms of community investment, which, from our point of view, demonstrates that principle that working together collectively enables us to generate more value than working individually. Community action works. So quickly then, share offer, some of the key facts. Open to individuals over 16. Organisations can also invest and you can purchase shares on behalf of a child. When they become 16, then the shares transfer to them. Minimum investment of £100, maximum interest rate 5%, subject to performance, as I was saying, higher than forecast returns invested in community benefit and new projects. Shares are allocated 2 months. So the next share allocation is the 31st of July. So if you invest money at the beginning of July, the shares will actually be allocated to you at the end of the month. And that's the date at which interest starts to accrue. So the next one after that would be the end of September, and then the next one after that, end of October, and so on. Interest for the financial year to March, each March, is then paid annually after approval at the AGM. So we make a proposal to members at our AGM for what the interest rate will be and what the level of community fund will be. And following that, we then make the payments. So AGM is usually in September, so payments usually made in October. And the interest is for the previous financial year. Shares normally exempt from inheritance tax. There's no investor tax relief now, but the shares are exempt from inheritance tax. Normally, although take tax advice, we're not tax advisors, providing their help for 2 years. Withdrawal request once a year. I mentioned that, except in exceptional circumstances, we can be flexible if absolutely needed. And the application process. So application made online on our website. We have a share registrar, which is Neville Registrars. They manage the share registry for countless community and commercial organisations. Very familiar with managing shares. You should read the share off document as part of that process and consider taking advice as required. During the process of application, you will be asked for some questions about how you consider the investment and that you recognise the risks involved, and some basic identity checks so that we can meet the requirements of the money laundering regulations. Payments can be made by bank transfer, debit card or cheque. Obviously, if it's coming up to the end of the allocation period, it'd be ideal to do it by bank transfer and debit card, because then money can be transferred relatively quickly. You see, a cheque takes a long time and it might fall outside of the allocation time frame for that period. So that's that. Any questions?
Pete, I've got a question. Interest rate. What was the interest rate paid in the last 3 years?
5%.
I think before that, when we had our target rate at 4%, it was paid. That was actually paid, wasn't it, for the previous 2 years?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's actually managed the target rate for the last 5 years?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We put the target rate up from 4 to 5% a few years ago. We do have some shareholders with shares from the very early days, which were at 7%, but that was at a point where risk was significantly higher as a startup organisation. So all new shares, and also the benefit, the value from the feed-in tariff projects supported a higher interest rate. Now with subsidy-free projects, we had to reduce the target rate for all new investment and all new projects to 5%.
So is anybody?
I'd just say on the interest rate, we can tend to look at what 10-year money, the value of 10-year money, because we think of this as a long-term investment. So whilst bank rates are higher at the moment, we fully expect them to go down over the next wee while. And so considered over a longer period of time, 5% is I think a reasonable return in a way that it wouldn't perhaps be if you were looking at it as a short-term investment.
got a couple of other questions. I won't mention names because we're recording. They may not want that. So first one, excellent presentation. That was the first comment. How do you manage to fund withdrawals? What sort of churn level do you have?
Yeah, good question. So at the moment, some of the capital we're raising will support enabling other shareholders to withdraw. So creating something of a sort of secondary market type thing, provide a little bit more liquidity, but we also provide from some of the revenue, we can also utilize some of that to repay shareholders. Depends on how much people are looking to withdraw. So we have investment from £100. The highest investment that anybody can make is £100,000, and we have 8 or 9 people at that level. Obviously, many more at the lower level. And so it's obviously a little bit more challenging to repay or redeem shares at the £100,000 than at the £100. So that will determine where the money comes from often.
Right, thanks. Well, a couple of questions now. Do you apply keep it local principles to your supply chain for projects?
Yeah, we do. We try wherever we can. Clearly, there are aspects of the supply chain that we can't do locally. We have a big issue at the moment around the ethical supply of solar panels. So we are trying to source solar panels that aren't implicated in forced labour issues, particularly in China. So solar panels clearly can't be local. The equipment can't be local, but we do wherever we can try and contract with local suppliers. At the moment, we're having a little bit of problem with the primary installer. There are few solar panel PV installers locally, and we had some problems with one of the local installers. And the installer that we've got now, their head office is not local, but they utilize local labour to do the work, which to our mind is the next best thing, because the other issue is that they also are cheaper, and cheaper install for the same quality means that there's more community benefit that we can recycle back into the community. So we have to look at this community benefit in the round. But yes, we definitely prioritise local. And one of the things that we're quite proud of is the fact that we, round about last year, we probably retained around about £1 million of revenue within the local community, in our local area, the local economy last year. Money that would normally have just disappeared, leaked out of the area.
Right, okay. I've got, what controls are maintained on the P&L, i.e. what is the definition of not-for-profit? Yes, so not-for-profit, to be totally accurate, should be not-for-profit distribution. We are not allowed by our articles to distribute profit. And so, or at least all we can do profit is to invest in the business or for charitable purposes. So the community fund, we can't distribute profit for private gain. So that's why the interest rate is framed as an interest rate. It's interest rather than profit distribution. So in terms of our P&L, we don't show, our P&L is heavily affected by the heavy depreciation. We revalue our assets to offset the depreciation because our assets are worth far more than a straight line depreciation would show in our accounts. But the revaluation comes in below the P&L. So last year,
last financial year was the first year that we made a profit, accounting profit. But of course, we generate significant amounts of cash each year. I'm not sure whether that answered your question about checks and balances on the P&L, but if you could be a little bit more specific, I can provide more information.
Okay, yeah. So if put it in the chat if you want any more detail. There's no more questions. I just thought I'd just mention that I'd already shared our invest page in the chat, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to share another page that my colleague Julia has already put something on the chat, has been involved in making a video on one of our projects. In fact, our biggest solar rooftops project at Sir Bernard Lovell School. And we worked with a local filmmaker, also an adventurer, climate activist who travelled to one of the COP conferences, Fossil Free, when it was a few years ago in Chile. So Pete's involved in the video. So there is a link to that video, which literally is launched this week. So I'm just going to pop that page on. And that page, because it's Community Energy Fortnight at the moment, that's our Community Energy Fortnight page. So as well as a link to the video, there will be a number of blogs talking about different aspects of BWCE, plus a link to subscribing to our newsletter, which we'd encourage everybody to do to keep up to date and pass that on to your contacts. So anybody else got any questions? It's nearly 10 minutes to go. Nothing else has come up in the chat.
Does the person who asked the question about profit and loss want to just kind of unmute themselves and just say whether there's anything else that they need?
Yeah, hi, it was me, Fraser, Peter.
Hi.
Just because of my financial background, I'm just interested to know, there's going to be a limit on how much you can put through as your P&L as expenditure before your profit suffers. Who suffers first? Is it the shareholder interest, or it certainly won't be your investor interest, because they won't let you do that. But
well, so the way it gets paid out, the first, from a service and capital point of view, the bank gets money first, because their debt is secured on the assets, then bondholders, then shareholders, and then the community fund. Although we try, and in those years where we had to reduce the interest rate because of the low sunshine levels, we agreed with members that we would balance both the interest and the community fund equally. So proportionally, they both went down a little bit. Same percentage went down. This year, last year, we had our projects were 2.7, 2.8% below target. But we will, because we had good power purchase agreements, we earned more money than we expected per kilowatt hour that we generated. We're able to manage that size of shortfall, so we would still be paying the target rate for last year, even though our projects were a little bit underperformed. And that's the benefit of the current situation, where we're generating more value from our projects than we originally planned for, because of the whole energy crisis. It's one of the things that we've benefited from. But this year, as people will have noticed, we've not had huge amounts of sun. So we're fingers crossed that it will pick up. We had a good month last month in June, but yeah, we're hoping to pick up in July and August and September, because they're the last high generating months of the year. Does that help, Fraser?
Yeah, no, thanks. Yeah, that's good. Thanks very much.
Okay, Pete, I've got some more questions. The next one, maybe I should start. How easy, hard are you finding fundraising at the moment? I think it's fair to say the last couple of years we've done really well, and it feels like we now need to reach out to new audiences. think we've got about 1,000, the latest figure, 1,000 members. A number of them have invested a number of times. So I would say it's fair to say it's slowed a little bit. And we really need to so this is hence this some of the stuff we've been doing over Community Energy Fortnight. We're all going to the Bath. We've sponsored the Bath Carnival. We're all going to turn up there and have big banners about BWC, and we're really trying to build awareness amongst new audiences, so that then we can hopefully find some new members. So I would say it's getting harder. Would you say, Pete? Is fair enough?
Yeah, at the moment it is undoubtedly harder than it has been in the past.
Yeah, and we had the energy crisis and the cost of living crisis. So I would imagine other community energy groups would feel the same. So I hope that's covered that. Are you interested in new sites for solar and wind? I'll leave you to take that, Pete. Yes.
Yeah, definitely. We, in terms of solar, for rooftop solar, I think there's still a roof spotter's guide on our website, is there, Nick?
I think we've just slightly amended the way we've done the website, but there is a roof spotter's guide available, but it's not actually on the website at the moment. We had it up for quite a long time.
But if anybody's interested, we've got a document that says what to look out for good solar roofs. But yes, so if it's a building, or if it's a potential for a wind turbine or a ground mount solar scheme, very interested, yes. Particularly, obviously, if it's in the area that I mentioned. If it's outside of the area, then nearby, we might look at it as a potential partnership project with one of the other local community energy organisations, which there are a number of in Bristol and Somerset and Wiltshire.
I mean, you've basically got the emails on screen there. So if you have got sites, because I know somebody, and I think it was the person who asked the question, might have a site. So do contact Pete or myself with that. And another question, a couple more. Do shareholders also get a reduction on receiving BWC electricity? So that's your question, Pete, because that's in our innovation and our
yes. Well, that is the intention. That is definitely the intention. From a regulatory point of view, it's very difficult to do. That's why it's in the innovation bit at the moment. We're running some pilot projects that will look to do exactly that. People who are buying the electricity from our solar projects will get a discount. The idea that members might get an additional discount is something that we're looking at, and I mean there are models out there whereby your return on your investment comes as a reduction in your electricity bill. We don't do it like that. We pay people directly with money, but that could be one way of looking at it. We'd certainly be very interested in discussing how members could benefit from that sort of approach.
Okay, I've got another question, which is several bits of it. I'm going to take the last bit first. Are bonds more popular or better understood than shares with investors? Interesting question.
Yes, yeah, I think they are. Yes, I think they are. And they also have the benefit that they are ISA eligible, and therefore you have tax benefits associated with that. And also there's a definable term. So if you have a bond, you have it for 5 years or whatever, and people know when they're going to get their money back. And also it comes one step up the pecking order, if you like. But it has a lower interest rate as a result. So the bond offer that we launch later this year will be probably have a lower interest rate than the share offer.
And just say it's fair to say that when you said at the beginning about our area of benefit, that investors can come from outside that area, but obviously want as many members locally, whereas a bond is very much national, isn't it? So, yeah.
So we want to try and maximise the local membership bit, obviously, because that brings governance and membership rights. and we want as many members as local as possible, but the bonds is just a straight investment, so it doesn't matter where that comes from.
And the other half of the question was, what would make it easy to find investors? Protection scheme, question mark, more liquidity?
Tax relief would make a massive difference. We used to have tax relief as a sector, well, as the wider renewable energy sector. If you invested in renewable energy, regardless of whether it was community or not, you would get tax relief through the investment enterprise investment scheme, and now through the social investment tax relief scheme. But back in 2016, the government took renewable energy, not just community energy, but renewable energy in total, out of the EIS scheme. At the time, they said it was because with the feed-in tariff, you were providing a level of security around income, which meant that you shouldn't have tax relief because there was no risk. Now the subsidy's gone, the logic behind that is gone, but whether or not, and we've been lobbying the government against others, many others, to create that. How likely that is given the current financial climate, I don't know. But the logic certainly there. I think that would make a massive difference. Protection schemes, yes. The trouble is, you need to, if you make your share offer FCA regulated, then that creates a lot of additional hoops and costs, which a lot of community organisations will struggle to cover. So I'm not sure how viable that is.
The liquidity, more liquidity.
Well, liquidity, I mean, I think shares are, because of their nature, withdrawable, not transferable, and because you're using the money to invest in kit, well, liquidity, the best you can do is what we're trying to do, which is by constantly raising capital. Our share offer is permanently open. It's not time limited. So by constantly raising capital, we create a bit of headroom to enable other people to come through. But also with bonds, you can create a secondary market. So organisations like Abundance and FX have secondary market where people can, you've got on your web page people selling their bonds, and other people can kind of go and buy them. So more possible with bonds.
Thank you very much for those answers. Really helpful. Thank you.
We've hit 2 o'clock. So just to reiterate, I'll be sending the slides to people in a PDF, and obviously people could respond to that email if they have any further questions. And also, I think Judah had already put on a comment about it'd be great if people, as well as if they're interested in investing, is any way they can help to share what we're looking for and build awareness. And I think we'd love to talk to a number of people on this conference. I think, should we shut? I haven't seen any more questions. I would imagine some
more questions.
Right, we got thank you, great session. That's good. Yeah, I think we're getting the thank yous now. So it's we need to leave people to get on with the rest of the day. So thank you very, very much for attending. And any more questions? You've got the emails we put on the slides, and you'll get some information.
Thanks very much, everybody.
Thank you. Cheers. Bye.